Dankeschön, Gay Raven. Sorry, dass es jetzt mit den letzten Stream gerade richtig funktioniert hat. Das lag daran, dass ich einen kleinen Fehler gemacht habe mit der Streaming-Software, so wie immer. Und ich würde sagen, deswegen, weil ich mir dachte, weil ich das verkackt habe, habe ich direkt gesagt, okay, können wir den Stream neu starten. Nun dann, sorry für die Umstände. Und ich würde sagen, wir fangen jetzt mal an mit wir schauen uns die Cutscene an. Und dann fangen wir an mit der Story. Und schauen uns mal, was Selena und Wangshi uns für schöne Nachrichten bringen. Vor allem, wo Selena geblieben ist über die ganzen Jahre. Was Gabriel mit ihr gemacht hat, genau.
それは全部重力の足かせから逃れられない。 Ich liebe diese Grundstimme von Wangshi. Wangshi ist eine Grundstimme, ist eine bekannte, ziemlich. 重力に縛られたこの思いがあるからこそ、私たちはこの大地に立って歌えるのです。命と理想を紡いで、永遠の地球の歌を。 Wunderschön. Wunderschönes Artwork übrigens. Es ist wunderschön. Ich würde sagen, wir fangen mit der Extra-Story an. The Songs of Eternal Earth. They are heading towards the shoreline. Operation Red Tide. 5:30 a.m. Universal Time. On a transfer craft in low Earth orbit. The engine emits a low steady hum. After some time, the crew's ears become accustomed on the sound. This sound, yeah, that sound here. Rather than finding it disruptive, the uniform rhythm is like white noise, lulling the crew with the desire to sleep. The seatbelts secure them to the seats, comforting them despite the weightlessness. Yet their need and longing for gravity are instinctive, carved in their genes. There's a sense of emptiness and loss in the vacuum of space. This loss only amplifies the sense of drowsiness. In order to suppress the impulse to close your eyes and take a nap, ja, ich würde auch einen Schlaf nehmen, aber mache ich erst später, you slowly shift your gaze to the porthole. You see the quiet universe dotted with stars. Ist wunderschön übrigens, das Artwork. The transport craft should be traveling at inconceivable speed. Leute, ich bin mal ganz kurz weg. Ich will was zu trinken. Sorry, dass ich nicht durchlese. Ich tue gerade das Essen. Ja. Ich tu mal das Mikrofon ein bisschen anders hinstellen. Everything you see appears to stop as if someone pressed the pause button. Fragments of memory begin to rush before your eyes, a kaleidoscope of colors. You were infiltrated by Zuschauen, City 075. Mind being was forced into a corrupted mind. Initiating mind connection with a corrupt is unprecedented. After a thorough examination, we find that your mind being has become corrupted. Now and up until this point, you haven't been able to recover from the corruption. I'm sure you've also noticed that your mind has fallen into a constant state of intermittent memory replays. Memory replays isn't exactly the most appropriate term for your symptoms, but it will do for the time being. In other words, you will randomly fall into a chaotic storm of memory flashbacks without warning. Some of your repressed or supposedly forgotten thoughts. Numerous fragments of memory will bond your consciousness. There's nothing wrong with your physical body other than the mind being in pollution, at least for now. The Science Council also wants to put you under constant observation to see whether any other physiological functions will be affected by your corrupted mind beacon. But that's for later. I think you have more difficult challenges to tackle in the interim. Your vision fragments again. What happened in the underground cabin is enough for you to be court-martialed. You are still sitting here only because you were responsible for defeating the polyphage. Looking up to here, you're responsible for defeating the polyphage will only cause an uproar among the people. So a decision was made to allow you to continue with your operations. Oh, I don't think your merits have offset the severity of this issue. The authorities won't simply let bygones be bygones. As long as the distrust remains, countless pairs of eyes will be watching your every move. If you do anything out of the ordinary during this time, even the president can protect you. Nico has always been blood, pay it no mind. You know what he meant. It was more of a reminder than a warning. I know. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a suspicion that this isn't over yet. Any people I can trust and deploy when the time comes. That includes the Grey Ravens. I don't have the time to have my people tangled up in bureaucracy, neither do you. At the very least, soldiers should die on the battlefield, not in the gallows of those they serve. The most important thing for Eden now is to solve problems and defeat the enemy, not go on a witch hunt against one of our own. As long as you can prove your loyalty and your worth to Eden in the next battle, that supervision will naturally lift. But right now, I fail from asking about your problems. Do you want to stay in the ICU or continue duty on the front line? Of course a golden arc of flash certainly shares your recollection. Consciousness returns in an instant. Was war das? You do not have the time to think about how long you were out, seeing that the arc slicing through your mind was not an illusion. It is real. Also the portal, the unchanging scenery suddenly shifts with the appearance of the arc. Like a scimitar, fresh out of the forge. A tranquil and curved horizon forms the afterglow of the golden light amid the sea of stars. Hidden up until this moment, Earth finally reveals its true face. Oh mein Gott, ist es wunderschön gezeichnet. Soon, the faint golden light turns blinding white. As the transport craft continues to coast along in orbit, the sun slowly rises from the distant shadow, illuminating the surface of the blue planet in its entirety. Without the atmosphere to scatter the light, the dazzling rays of sunlight are sharp and absent of their usual tenderness. Just staring at it momentarily fills your brain with an unspeakable sense of vertigo. Commandant. Someone seems to be calling out to you by your ear. Commandant! Why is your thoughts are about to reveal, the same voice brings you back to reality. Suddenly turning your head to see Liv and Lucia sting before you with looks of worry. He furrows his eyebrows faintly. Huh? Let's see outside, his front brows seem to relax as well. Don't look directly at the sun without the proper equipment, even though the portal is equipped with a filter. UV light is still enough to burn your retinas. I'm fine. I was just lost in thought. She looked out of the portal to where you were looking. She wants to say something, but before she can speak, she is interrupted by another harsh voice. It's not a time for slacking and idle chit-chat, Grey Raven Commandant. Following this, a Hellgrim project appears before you. Es ist das der Typ, den ich denke, der ist? Oh Gott, es ist wahrscheinlich der Typ, der uns beobachten soll. Anyways. Moving on. Florence's light from the outline of an Andy-Man, yeah. He's wearing the standard usual commander uniform. Emitters split as the stern upper as his expression. Man's eyes are slightly cloudy with age, but his posture remains upright like that of an unyielding pine. With eyes like an old falcon, he scans all the sorrows of the transport craft. Although you are not communicating face to face, there's no literal eye contact. All sorrows present answer questions they straighten their posture as they meet his gaze. It is Hans speaking. I'll be the chief commander for this ground mission. Asimov, the Science Council chief technician, has already explained the specific measures of this mission to you. I won't go over them, as I'm sure most of you have already committed the details of this mission to memory. However, given lack discipline among the construct squads I just witnessed, let me
at these odds to prevent further negligence. Upon saying this, Sun's gaze seemed to sweep past you. Meet his gaze. Let's begin the mission briefing. Following Hans' words, your mind returns before you for departure. 24 hours ago. Babylonia war room. Sail commanders gather before the war table. Battle against the Assassins has come to an end. Your heard deeds on the surface were astonishing. Fortunately, the Parliament is unable to give you the medals and honors you deserve at the moment. After receiving this urgent assembly order. Ja, danke, dass ich keine Medal of Honor kriegt, bitch. This urgent assembly order. You've probably realized new troubles have arisen imminent. Selka, project new information. Yes, President. Selka quickly repairs the terminal, and the holographic correction reveals a series of remote sensing images. Oh mein Gott, was ist denn hier passiert? Immediately dark blue screen is covered with a large swath of red. Was? What the fuck? Singing crystals clusters bloom the surface in the shape of arteries, forming a cobweb of rivers entrenched in the surface. Some of the images are very blurry, either due to issues with the transmissions, or perhaps the photographers were facing external threats that is unable to record everything. Some gas shortly after the entire conference room feels deathly quiet. You could hear a pin drop. As clears throws, breaking the solemn silence. Aston, since you were the first one to organize the data on the current situation, I think it's appropriate that you would take it from here. Asimov nods and approaches the war table. By the look of his haggard expression, pale lips, and faint dark circles under his eyes, he appears to have had several sleepless nights the past few days. Rare, right as he opens his mouth to speak, his usual professional as his science council chief technical officer returns. Some of the teams that went dispatched during the large-scale ground operation may be unaware of this. So I explain this briefly. Oh! Naval läuft im Hintergrund, das ist interessant. Kommt Alpha wieder oder Zeta? As you can see, during our last ground operation, we uncovered dark red ties containing new pauses from as we're starting to come up with the proper wording. New forms of punishing rifles. Based on their physical properties, the science council has decided on the name and red tide for the time being. However, this is definitely not a natural phenomenon caused by the explosion or proliferation of red algae in a conventional ecological sense. This entity has nothing to do with water. After conducting an analysis of samples, the red liquid you see is the punching virus itself. All of our construct teams engaged in a direct confrontation with the descendants during previous operation. Nikola suddenly steps forward and interrupts Asimov. Get to the point, Asimov. Nikola, let Asimov present whatever information he feels is pertinent to the mission. Asimov pulls his eyebrows, seemingly slightly displeased, and continues speaking. I'm going to repeat the specific details of the operation, only the results. The commandants present who have participated in previous operations have most likely encountered new forms of corrupted. These enemies are unlike conventional corrupted. Instead, they are a form of pure punching virus, possessing apparent biological features. More specifically, they represent an evolution of the punching virus, punching hetero creatures. The specific mechanism and reason are unknown. We don't know why punching virus is capable of self-evolution. The only thing we can say for certain is that they are created by the punching virus within the red tide. The red tide will devour machinery and organisms, and decompose them into nourishment for breeding hetero creatures. Originally, after repairing the ascendants, the proliferation on the red tide began to diminish. That's super gut zu wissen. Aber wahrscheinlich hat sich's geändert. However, we received a transmission from the recon team 24 hours ago. Red tide has resurfaced. The proliferation is different from last time, so we didn't realize the severity until it was already too late. Red tide is like a relentless cancer, going into remission only to recur anew. Red tide initially looked in an underground cavern that was designed as a nuclear fallout shelter by City 075. It circulated through the city's underground waterways before reaching critical mass and emerging onto the surface. We attached our recon team to the city units to ensure that it was under our supervision. However, the characteristic of the red tide seemed to fluctuate for a rhyme or reason. In this regard, it's not a tide in the traditional sense, but more a fluid of an organism that can act autonomously. Plus, the underground cavern was built in secret, so many places are now blind spots. Some underground waterways connect to nearby rivers through an intricate network of pipelines. Even if the rivers have dried up, the riverbeds and ravines are still there. A portion of the red tide was able to slip out of the city undetected for these blind spots. Moreover, as you just saw on the screen, the red tide is from tributaries along the surface of the wasteland. After receiving this information from our scouts on the surface, the Science Council has conducted emergency tests on this form of the red tide. Fortunately, this red tide isn't as rampant as the first time, nor has it expanded to the point of becoming an unstoppable deluge. Unfortunately, its distribution is far too prolific. The red tide has formed a real river, dispersing to countless smaller tributaries. After calculating the course of these tributaries, we found one thing. They are headed toward, as Noah's fingers sweep the screen, displaying a wider version of the map. Significant points to a larger blue sector, the ocean. It's heading towards the shoreline. If we allow the red tide to reach the shoreline, there's no turning back. Like the ocean, land serves as an energetic buffer zone that can block the red tide. There's no better medium for the wanton proliferation and spread of the red tide than water. The whole sea will become corrupted, devoured, and assimilated by the red tide. By that time, the punish river will spread to every corner of the world. In order to curb the spread of the red tide, Babylonia has formulated a plan to bombard the red tide with the Longinus Arsenal, referencing the plan made during the battle at the space station. First step of this plan is to obtain the exact coordinates and location of the red tide. During the Golden Age, you may need to send a request to SatNav system to obtain the specific coordinates for an area. Now these satellites have become corrupted by the punishing virus, so we can no longer rely on them. Great! Super! Großartig! Has approached the war table. Next I will brief everyone on the vision. As you wish, Mr. President. As soon as Nelson takes a step back, Celica. Celica presses the button, the movable panel in the center of the war table separates into two sections with a crisp pop as a small platform rises up from within. To everyone's surprise, the long black hexagonal needle, nearly 1.5 meters in length, appears. This device was permanently developed by the Science Council. It's called a bit domain node. It will be distributed to all team captains present at the beginning of the operation. Your task is to locate the edge of the red tide, insert a bit domain node, activate it, then protect it until you receive the evacuation order from Babylonia. Total coverage must include all of the red tide's tributaries. We need to remove it all at once to ensure that no residual tide is left this time. If you are attacked by terror creatures during this period, hold your position to ensure the integrity and security of the domain node. In order to ensure that this operation goes according to plan, we will saturate all deployments, positionings, and attacks. 8 teams will be deployed to execute this collaboration mission. Warum wird mein Chat nicht angezeigt?